to say that the season hasn't gone as they expect, I would kind of think it's, and I don't know, like they probably didn't see this season going as bad as it actually has. So, like, my question
No,
to
no.
you is, like, do you believe that they thought they would have more than 3 wins so far?
Oh, yes. Yeah, for sure. Um, I definitely thought that. I, do I think that they were maybe a little misleading intentionally in saying, like, we think we have a team that could make the postseason? I think so. Do I think that they thought that this is a team that should be able to improve off last year's record somewhat significantly, like high 20s, low 30s? Yeah, I think they thought that too. Um, it's nobody expects to have the longest losing streak in NBA history. Like that's just not something you even like anticipate happening until you get to like 2021, right? Like
Mhm.
that's very far fetched to even imagine. So no, they did not expect this. Um, and it's yeah, I think that's everything that's gone bad has gone wrong, whether it's injuries, whether it's the losing streak, whether it's not showing progress. Like everything that could possibly go wrong has gone wrong. And because of that, I think they're probably, well, I'm curious to see if they try to accelerate this thing sooner than they anticipated just to get uh, maybe people off their back, like the fans and things
Mhm.
like that. And rightfully so, fans are upset as they should be. But I'm curious to see if they stay patient or if they um, maybe swing for the fences a little sooner than they anticipated.
It's so weird because I did read your piece when Tom Gores did, talk with the media, and obviously there was a lot to like get into with that. But do you think they, like you said, they might accelerate it? Do you think they would do that to kind of try to get Monty more veterans? Because he this kind of seems like you're around him every day. He seems like a coach that maybe he's not comfortable with some of these young guys on this team. Maybe, he talks about, Alec Burks all the time, like it's the best bet he's ever been around, or, guys like Bojan. Maybe they, get rid of some younger guys to kind of make Monty's life a little bit easier.
Yeah, like that's the impression I've gotten is when I say accelerate, I was more so I'm like if they make like a big trade, like
Yeah.
the Zach LaVine trade, right? But I think there's veterans they can add that's not quote unquote accelerating it, but still pushing the product forward. Like I just like using this guy as an example. Like I think somebody like Royce O'Neal would be perfect for
Yeah.
this team. Like, and I understand when people say Royce O'Neal, that's not going to change anything. I'm working under the assumption like this season's lost. It is what it
Oh,
is.
yeah.
You don't want to mortgage your future before you know what your future is. Like you don't know what Asar is, Ivy is. You're starting to know what Kate is, and it's everything you wanted. You don't know what Duran is. Like I'm not ready to give up on those guys. So to me, I don't think you can get the big fish without moving one of them. Um, I mean, you can get the big fish possibly in the offseason, right? But I think that's like I'll that's what I would be looking for, and I think that's what they're going to be looking for is like the Royce O'Neal types, just to have more like proven NBA players. I think that's a big thing. It's not that I don't think Monty doesn't like having the young guys. I just think, admittedly, probably there's just too many. There's far too many.
Yeah, I thought of two guys right off the bat when you were talking. I thought of Royce O'Neal and Torrey Craig. Like,
Yeah, like
just like,
guys like that. Yep.
yeah, like I think when fans like hear like change like that, they think of like the report that Shams had out a couple of weeks ago about like OG Anunoby and Pascal Siakam and that, like they think that kind of like change.
Yeah,
But I mean, you can get like lower tier like 3-and-D wings that might not cost you like your young talent.
yeah, and that's all you need. Like I think that's generally say if this team started the season with Cade, Ivy, Bojan, Royce O'Neal, Jalen Duran, and then you've got guys like Torrey Craig off the bench, Alec Burks off the bench, Monte Morris off the bench. I think everybody's tune's a little bit different. Just especially if you're assuming like Cade ended up taking the leap that he's taken. Like this isn't a 3-31 team. I'm not saying they're a 500 team. I don't know that, but I think it's a lot more palpable for people if you get role players specifically on the wing for this team. I think like just minor tweaks like that will go a long way in building some confidence for this young group. But I
Yeah,
do
that,
think they are going to
yeah.
go big fish hunting this summer. If I were them though, and I were running the team, I would try to use my cap space first to try to get that before I let go one of these young players, one of the core four or whatever.
It kind of seems like Troy Weaver's MO. Like he had like outside of his first year, like he hasn't really made like a really big like free agency splash. Like you could say Jeremy Grant, but like if you go down the list, it's like Kelly Olynyk was like a $13 million signing. Like
Right.
he hasn't really gone out and like paid someone like 25, 30 million yet.
Yeah, and I knew when they came in, like their plan was like year 2023 is when they wanted to turn the corner. Um, Obviously they couldn't plan for Cade's injury, and I think that put a pause on their plan and put it back by a year. But I mean, I just think at the end of the day, the most important thing for this organization was to find out what they had in Cade. And as each game passes, and it's been this case for the last month and a half, like they got a guy that can be he's been a top 20 player in the NBA for the last month and a half. Now, and I've said this ad nauseum since he's been here, like this guy's going to be a top 20 player in his career at some point for multiple years. And you're starting to see that now. And like, you can't win in this league you need two probably top 20 players, but you definitely need one. And I think everybody's starting to feel comfortable about them having one. And now it's just like you just got to develop the other guys. Because I think Asar, once he can shoot, man, like I really think Asar has all NBA type potential. I really think Asar is going to be a problem if he can start hitting even just open threes. Like he doesn't need to do stuff off the dribble. Like if he can be OG Anunoby, right? Like,
Yeah.
and I think he has a better handle at that age. Like, that's exactly what you need. And so, yeah, I think while this season has been what it is, the emergence and just kind of Cage jumping on the scene, I think a lot of people feel better than they would if this team was 3-31 and he was still taking a little bit longer to get acclimated from missing a season.
Yeah, I mean, I've said for the longest time with this season, I thought that the front office wanted to see what they have before they invest long term.
Right.
Like I could see them having what Houston did this past summer, like in free agency, where
Yep.
they go and try to get guys. Like they didn't want to commit long term money because like I know a lot of people are like, oh, let's go get Cam Johnson, like let's go get Grant Williams, like Matt Strus and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I think they didn't want to like have their cap flexibility taken away. And
For
like
those guys, right? Like,
yeah,
I understand. So I know that they had interest in Cam Johnson, and then it went away. And my guess is, and this is just a guess, I'm not saying this is a fact. My guess is Monty gave them the background on how bad his knees are or whatever. Like, this franchise, as you know, Anthony, like this franchise has gotten itself in this place because they've overpaid on either free agents that aren't as good as what they're getting paid or guys that are routinely hurt and it comes back to bite them, right? So like I don't mind not paying $30 million a year for Cam Johnson. I don't. Max Strus would be very good on this team. Am I trying to use the flexibility it took me years to build up to give Max Strus $27 million? I'm just not. I'm sorry. Like I know people want the team to get better, but like I'd rather wait it out to find the guys that like I feel comfortable giving the money to. And like Grant Williams, he hasn't had a great season. Like it's I just there's just certain guys like I would rather. Now next year you might have to just settle for guys that you're like on the fence on because you can't let this go any longer. But if you feel better about the pool next year, then you got to go for it because I was in the boat that. So this was like their plan. I don't know if it's been laid out. I've tried to lay it out in stories, but of course they wanted to see what the young talent was. So people are like, why not go for a Fred VanVleet, right? Like in hindsight, that'd be a perfect pairing with Cade. But what they needed to learn because Cade missed the season is can Cade handle the usage and high workload of a primary ball handler? Like, and you don't learn that by signing Fred VanVleet to $100 million. Like, that's why I keep saying Cade's injury really put a monkey wrench in like their plans. And I'm not making excuses for him, but that's why you don't go get a high price secondary ball handler, even if we've learned since the season started that might be the best person to put next to Cade, right? So I understand not doing $100 million for him. So let's go get Monte Morris for nothing. But it's just unfortunate for them. Monte Morris hasn't been able to play, right? It's like, okay, we could pay Max Strus $27 million, or we can get 2 seconds and an expiring contract in Joe Harris that hopefully can knock down some threes for us, and we can readdress that position long term. Unfortunately for them, Joe Harris has not worked out, right? So, like, I understand the logic. It just, like what I said at the top of the show, the worst case scenario at every turn has played out for this team.
Yeah, it's almost like it's just a monkey on their back that just can't get off.